Just perfect. That she'll even show you Dad's inheritance? As to that ungrateful daughter who left home as soon as she graduated high school won't get a penny. Well, that's true. You did abandon this house after all. No way. We got the inheritance. Just now grab whatever mementos you want and get out of this house. I see. My name's Cheetah, a 35-year-old office worker. I live happily with my husband and our 5-year-old daughter. Today, I truly realized how troublesome inheritance can be. I lost my mother to illness when I was 6 years old. I really loved my mother. She always cherished and adored me. When I drew a picture, she would say, "Oh, that's amazing. You're a genius," and even framed it to display. She would sing lullabies until I fell asleep and read me picture books. Hearing my mother's gentle voice and seeing her kind smile always calmed my heart. When my beloved mother suddenly left this world, I felt incredibly lonely. Hey, why isn't Mommy here? I miss Mommy. I used to cry and whine about impossible wishes like that, and I think it troubled my father a lot. But he would always hug me and say, "I'm sorry." She took sections. Since my father was very busy with work, I was often left in the care of my paternal grandparents who lived nearby. My grandparents were very kind to me and even played with me. Even as a child, I felt sorry that they seemed to be concerned about me. After that, I stopped troubling my father by talking about my mother. But perhaps because I kept my words inside, I started to cry unexpectedly as stress built up. I tried to cry in my room at night so as not to be noticed by my father, but one night he found out when he got up to use the bathroom. And says, "Cheetah, what's wrong? Hurt P-Trains, that Sue?" My father didn't say anything at the time, but he seemed to have realized something when he saw me holding my mother's photo. After that, my father started taking me out with a woman named Susan. She had a warm smile and spoke to me casually. "Cheetah, let's have some ice cream. Which do you prefer, vanilla or chocolate?" "Vanilla? Got it. Sure, I'll get it for you." And with that, she would buy two, and even let me taste her chocolate one. After several outings with her and my father, I gradually began to open up to her. Her smile reminded me a bit of my mother's. Maybe that's why she felt somewhat familiar. Then, about a year later, my father and she sat opposite me in the house. "Shina, I've decided to marry her. From today, we'll live together as a family of 3 in this house. Shina, let's get along well from now on. I don't expect to replace your mother right away, but I hope we can become a real family bit by bit." I had a good impression of her, so I was happy that we could live together. It felt like I had a new mother. It made my heart feel a little lighter. Today, no. I drew a picture in art class. "Wow, that's really good. You're talented." She praised my drawing just like a mother would. It didn't make it into a frame, but I was thrilled when she stuck it on the fridge with a magnet for a while. The sadness of losing my mother faded away thanks to her, and I was able to become more positive. I still hesitated to call her a mom, but I think we were pretty much like a real family. My father seemed happy to see her and me getting along so well. I thought we would continue to live as a happy family. But when I was 9, things started to look stormy. It all started when I got a little brother. She doted on my brother Sean. Of course, he was her own flesh and blood, so it was natural for her to adore him. But as a result, she became colder towards me. "I need to tell you about school today." "I can't wait. I'm busy with him right now." "Okay." "He's just so adorable. Look, I bought you a toy." "A toy?" "Thanks, Mom." As he began to speak, her affection for him only grew. She wouldn't buy me any clothes or toys, but she constantly bought him all the latest stuff. This made him realize he was the favored one, and he began to get cheeky with me. "Huh, you got more pasta than me? That's not fair." "No, you've got plenty too." "Mom, doesn't sis have more?" "Oh, you're right. Sean, you can take as much as you want from her plate." "T, wait a minute." He said that and took a bunch of pasta from my plate. "You're taking too much." "Mom, sis is scaring me." "Cheetah, don't be selfish. As a punishment, all of it is Sean's now." With that, she gave all of my share to him. That happened more than once. Literally, eventually. I learned not to argue. Oh, I told her. Or I'd end up with even less to eat, and that usually happened when my father wasn't around. He was a very busy man, often coming home late, so we rarely had dinner at the same time on weekdays. And my father always seemed to get along with Sean and Susan, so I couldn't talk to him about it, as I kept bottling up my feelings. Susan and Sean's treatment of me got worse. Thick. Why is there one extra person in this house? Really? Why is she even here? I wish her meals would just go to me. At this time, I was only 15. I couldn't live on my own. She knew this but still made comments intending to upset me, suggesting I should leave. I couldn't talk to my father because I was holding back, but the harassment from Susan and Sean was taking a toll on me mentally. I wanted to get out of that house as soon as possible. I spent my days thinking this way. I started a part-time job in high school, but she told me spending too much is not good for your education, and she would take my whole paycheck every month, only giving me a small allowance from it. Moreover, she started buying him more and more expensive things. The latest gaming consoles, popular toys, even clothes. There's just so much stuff that's needlessly pricey. I'm pretty sure it's coming out of the money I work hard for at my part-time job. Why do I have to be exploited by those two for the money I earned with so much effort? It really made me mad. Then, as soon as I graduated from high school, I landed an office job. At the same time, I moved out and started living on my own. My father seemed lonely, but she and him seemed thrilled, almost as if they were glad to have the nuisance out of the way. After that, I barely went home, except for maybe the holidays, keeping my distance from my family. And just like that, over 10 years have passed. I had just gotten married when, out of the blue, my father invited me out for a drink. I thought he had some important news, but instead, he started talking about when I left home. I asked why he brought it up, and apparently, he had overheard an unbelievable conversation between Susan and Sean. They were gleefully admitting that they managed to drive me away with their nasty talk, cornering me mentally until I left the house as soon as I graduated. My father had come home without their knowledge and overheard them laughing and boasting about it to each other. Susan had been telling him like it was some heroic tale. Cheetah, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize what you were putting up with. No, it's okay. It's also my fault for not speaking up. I told my father everything that had happened to me. I was beginning to get over it, but telling him felt like lifting a curse. By telling my father everything, I felt I could finally move on. Years later, my father became ill and was hospitalized. Given his age, it wasn't surprising. I visited him often. Of course, this meant I ran into Susan and Sean more than I'd like. They were as nasty as ever. I even overheard them by my father's bedside discussing how much they'd get from the inheritance. It made me wonder if they really cared about him. When I got a moment alone with my father, we talked about them. Apparently, they had been running wild since I left. And my father, now fed up, didn't bother reprimanding them anymore. You could have reached out to me for advice. Like father, like daughter, right? My father then decided to consult a lawyer to ensure that I'd receive as much of the inheritance as possible. Just a month later, my father passed away. I was grateful that I was the last person he spoke with. The wake and funeral kept me busy, but I was glad to see him resting peacefully and to have the chance to say a proper goodbye. Now you can finally meet Mom again. But you've aged, Dad. Maybe she won't recognize you. I thought to myself as I went to the house to sort through his things. My father had asked me to handle his belongings before he died. Susan and Sean looked annoyed when I arrived, but I ignored them and sorted through the stuff. Let's make sure you leave the valuable items. I was disgusted by their behavior. They came over smirking, holding an envelope. This is perfect. We'll show you Dad's inheritance. The inheritance? Why did she have it? It says here that all the inheritance goes to Susan and Sean, not a penny for the ungrateful daughter who left home as soon as she graduated high school. Yeah, that's right. You abandoned this house after all. Oh, may. Well, giving money to you would be a waste anyway. We've taken the inheritance. Now grab your things and get out of this house quickly. I see. Ignoring the two smug faces, I went back home. Then I went to see the lawyer that my father had hired. He told me the content of the real will. Based on that, I decided to take certain actions. A few weeks later, as expected, I get a call somewhere. Hey, do you know something about the house? Yes. What about it? We got a notice of eviction. What's this all about? Oh, that would be because I sold the house. Why? The inheritance is all mine and Sean's. Why do you have the right to sell it? Well, the real will states that all the inheritance, including the land rights, was left to me. You and Sean will only be getting a few $1,000s. I heard. It's a small token of compassion. What, the real inheritance? What nonsense are you spouting? I have the inheritance written in his handwriting. Yours must be fake. The inheritance I have is the original, entrusted to the lawyer by my father. That you showed me before, are you sure it's legitimate? What do you mean? It had no mention of being a will, nor did it have father's name on it. Wait, But it's about the inheritance, so it counts as a will. I found it in his hospital room. Well, since we're on the subject, I'll just spill the beans. It was written by my uncle, father's brother. Come, my father never wrote such an inheritance. Why would he do something so misleading? My father said he'd been treated terribly by you too. He was also constantly pestered about the inheritance after he was hospitalized. So he left that fake will-like document to keep quiet. That's outrageous. So we're only getting a few $1,000s. Looks like it. That is a problem. We were counting on the inheritance, bought luxury cars, went on extravagant trips abroad, and spent an insane amount of money. A few $1,000s won't cut it. Sean even quit his job. That's not my problem. Sounds like you made your bed. Now you have to lie in it anyway. That's all I have to say. So please leave. How promptly? Goodbye. Wait a minute. Just with that, I hung up the phone and blocked the number. It seems Susan and Sean racked up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because they squandered the inheritance they expected. Well, my father was quite a high earner, so it figures they'd spend that much if they thought they were getting all of it. Maybe my father anticipated this all along. If so, his revenge was a resounding success. By the way, Susan and Sean are now living in a shabby apartment, juggling multiple jobs to pay off their debts. On the other hand, I received a substantial inheritance, but I plan to save it carefully. But I plan to give my family all the love in the world.